going to do kind of a brief run through of our NewhamInfo site. Also go into some detail about kind of how we've taken the data and how we're working with it now to try and turn into a site that really gives more about information and knowledge to people rather than just being a store of information and data. A little bit of history to start with really about NewhamInfo. Idea of a local information system was first discussed back in 2002. By the end of 2003, NIMS was born, the Neighbourhood Information Management System. This was a collaborative project between the Borough and the Local Strategic Partnership. And it was a system that was essentially custom built by an external supplier, and then the LSP supplied the required data and requested information, and the NIMS team, as it were, uploaded the data onto the system, which was a NIMS team at the time that consisted of approximately 4 people doing various kind of preparing data, uploading data, web development kind of work as well. By about 2006, NIMS realised that other off-the-shelf products existed that could do a lot more than NIMS was currently doing, and a lot easier and a lot more efficiently. And then by 2007, Instant Atlas was acquired. The site's been through a number of rebrands over the years. Got a couple of screenshots. This is only as far back as 2006 that was in existence. It's pretty dated compared to some of the things that we've been seeing already today. When Instant Atlas came in, this was the NewhamInfo site, and we very recently, as of last year, went through another rebrand to the site that you see in front of you now. A lot of the kind of driver behind NewhamInfo was initially we produced a hard copy book called Focus on Newham, which was copied to a large extent on the Focus on London document that the GLA produced. And what we tried to do was to basically turn that document into an electronic resource, so that rather than people having it's a huge cost that kind of went into preparing that document and obviously publishing it. We're hoping to do exactly the same thing, but by having it all online. You won't quite see it on this screenshot, but you might see it a bit later when we go onto the site. You've got data by themes at the bottom, and those themes represent the same themes from the Focus on Newham document. So it tries to give people access to the information. So what actually is NewhamInfo then? Well, the obvious part is it's a store of demographic and statistical information about the borough. It holds data at various geographies, borough, community forum, water, LSOA. It holds borough level information for all London boroughs. It holds comparators that are important to us, such as the Olympic boroughs, London, and other GBM comparators. But it's not just about the data and kind of the Instant Atlas kind of tool set. It's wider than that in terms of the tools and facilities that it's got. One key one which we're going to hopefully be seeing a huge increase in the use of is the Census Tool that we have on the site. If I can just go on to the site. This is NewhamInfo. You'll see at the top here we've got some kind of information bars. One of them is census, and this is kind of a custom-built census tool that basically allows users to, it's going to launch, query and interrogate the key tables in the census. Obviously at the moment it's 2001 data, or no data. Okay, we'll see what happens. But obviously this year and next, the release of the 2011 information, I think we're going to see a real increase in the use of this, and certainly the requests to get access to that information. Okay. I'm going to give up on that since it's still loading, but anyway. I'll have to blame the network and not NewhamInfo. Could well be us. Other information on facilities that we've got a research directory on there, which again is available on the login, and it's essentially designed to be a store of all research and survey work that the council conducts, not just within our key research team, but across the authority as well. So about making that data available, so anyone who wants to is thinking about commissioning some research or want some information from a certain piece of work that's being done, they can go there and find access to what they need if it's available, and talk to, there's metadata there to tell people about who commissioned it, what it's for, and what data's available. And to kind of touch on some of the aspects that Graham mentioned earlier in his presentation, we've got a feedback section on the website as well, which we encourage members of the public or anyone who sort of internally in the site to feedback their user experience, if you like, of using NewhamInfo, but also to kind of comment on any data sets that they're looking for that maybe they can't find, data sets that perhaps aren't as up to date as they could be, and also to kind of help us sort of steer the direction for NewhamInfo in terms of what we're presenting to people and how we're doing that. So the need for information, probably preaching to the converted with many of you here as sort of public sector organisations, but information is vitally important to us and the work we do, especially for informing council policy and strategies, and the ever-increasing need for them to be built on a solid evidence base. The information that we provide for NewhamInfo we use very much to empower council staff and the public to kind of source their own data rather than rely on the demography service. And it's worth stressing now that demography service that was once for people back in 2003 is now one person in Yusuf, my colleague, who kind of does pretty much all the data work around NewhamInfo. So, there's an obvious need there for us to be able to get information out to people quickly and allow them to kind of self-serve that data rather than sending the information request to us and having to keep repeating ourselves numerous times around the population of the borough and ward level population and projections and things like that. Demographic information within our authority we use very much to inform EQIAs, quality impact assessments, JSNA data, the LEA, and Newham's resilience agenda. Whereas before, staff and consultants were spending an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money to kind of gather this data for things like the JSNA and the LEA, what we're able to do through NewhamInfo is to present that information out to them quickly in one location, in one source, so they can kind of get everything they need as quickly as possible, cutting down on officer time in the council to gather that information, and in some instances cutting down on charges that consultants make to us as authority to gather that information as well. Obviously, all councils, all public sector is being forced to allocate their resources more effectively, and that's where good quality information and strong evidence can help to inform, as I said before, the policies and strategies the council will make it to make sure that those resources are going to where they're needed the most and are going to have the most effect. And then also something that we're starting to plan for now, and it's probably going to become very, very important over the next year or so, depending on how things go, is the Health and Social Care Bill. Rather be asking questions around public health moving into local authorities by April 2013. Within Newham, public health are already starting to make strides into coming into the local authority by April this year. So there's a lot of work going on about what data will be required by local authorities to help support that service, how we can get the data, what's going to be available to us, what we won't be able to get and we'll need to go back and source ourselves, and importantly for us, and where NewhamInfo comes in, is how we can store it and then communicate and combine the data sets we already have and then communicate that information out to council, the public and the care providers. And we see NewhamInfo as acting as a hub for that information through the way that we can use the atlases and profiles to present that data to them. There's a wider need there as well in terms of the GPs. Obviously going to be in charge of their own budgets and commissioning, so in order to effectively do that, they're going to need to have access to demographics and statistical information that's going to help them prioritise where they need to invest the most. And hopefully we can steer a lot of those providers and return them in Newham to NewhamInfo to help serve that purpose. In terms of managing data, some of the issues that we had, to be perfectly honest, was that NIMS became very, very data heavy. there was an awful lot of data going in, an awful lot of indicators being requested and being loaded, and then it just became a bit of an administrative nightmare in terms of updating that data set. It was very much like kind of painting the fourth bridge, that as soon as one piece of information had been loaded, then something else had just been released and had to go back and do that. So, as you will testify, there was pretty much no time at all to kind of concentrate on the development of the site, speaking to audiences, feedback, kind of looking at how we can move the site forward, because we were constantly engaged in just maintaining data sets that were there. So the solution to that was we brought in OCSI data packs to help maintain our core data sets. That's been a real kind of benefit to us, because it's allowed us to focus our attentions more on how we present the data to the audience, and also how we understand what the audience needs are. We do that by kind of going out to service level team meetings, presenting NewhamInfo to them, showing them what data is available for their services, and also kind of getting feedback from them in terms of what data they use that we haven't got, or what data they use but isn't up to date in NewhamInfo. And, we're quite honest that a lot of the data that's in there may not be as current as it can be, but without finding out what services use and what's important to them, we can't really make the judgment call into what we focus our attention on maintaining the most. And it also allows us to spend a lot more time developing our own internal data sources. A couple of examples there is our Mayhew population study, which some London boroughs may know, other boroughs may not. It's just basically our own commissioned population survey work using councils' administrative data sets. And we present that back through NewhamInfo to the authority, so they can kind of make use of it. And PLASC as well, the school census information, which is a huge kind of rich data source that's updated 3 times a year, but we use the January census, so a yearly update of kind of key demographic information about school children in the borough, but can often be used as a proxy for the adult population as well. Just going to very quickly, hopefully, go into NewhamInfo. There's the Census Tool. You're interested in it? Just to give you an example of some of the work we do with PLASC data. Log in first. So what we do with PLASC is we make it available under login to council staff. They have to register with us so that we can give them access, and then what they do is they get access to the advanced profiles and the advanced data use area of the site. And under that we have, among other things, the PLASC data. Use PLASC by ethnicity as an example. So what we're doing is we're presenting PLASC out at ward level and LSI level, and we've gone back and put in about 5 years worth of PLASC data in there as well to build up a really nice comprehensive time series of the information as well. And this, particularly PLASC by ethnicity, is very useful at low level, because most of you'll know that ethnic data at a low level isn't really readily available. Most of it's borough-wide or experimental data anyway. So this helps us really look at our own internal data sources and how we can kind of draw information from it. Just to kind of give you maybe we'll come back to it. Let it load. There we go. The other part of that slide around managing data was about taking advantage of the technical advances in Instant Atlas as well. Particularly kind of having more control over the content by embedding the pages directly into Instant Atlas. This is Instant Atlas server product that we use as well, by the way. So we're not so heavily reliant on our ICT teams to kind of update content and manage pages. We can kind of do that all ourselves through the administration. I'm going to give up, but it's really good, honestly. It shows up some really nice patterns around the ethnicity of the borough. So if you look at kind of the Indian population, the Pakistani population, you can find some really nice clusters of where these people are in the borough, which obviously helps to inform decision making around how you interact with these people, language barriers, social barriers, that kind of stuff. And I did want to kind of show you the background mapping that we use. We've seen some presentations from people that are using the Google Maps. What we do is we pull in our background mapping from our corporate GIS database. So we use ordnance surveys, kind of vector map, street view, and then master map at a low level. But it's all coming through a map cache from our corporate GIS server. And it's the same mapping data that we use on our public-facing website. It's the same data we use on our intranet site. It's the same stuff we use in our CRM. So there's a real consistency about what mapping information we're presenting out to the public and to staff as well. I should just take my word for it. It's great. So just finally then, our future plans. As I've kind of just touched on there, we want to do a lot more kind of work on linking into the GIS and the mapping through NewhamInfo, exploiting our corporate GIS technology. What I mean by that is there's a couple of screenshots there of our public-facing kind of mapping offerings, My Maps and My Neighbourhood. What My Neighbourhood is essentially you use an address or a postcode to put up a property from the council's LLPG, and that gives you information about kind of the key facilities that are within that area. You can probably see some of the screenshots there. It's got things like the councillors, what ward you're in, who the councillors are, and what we want to then do is link into this report kind of the demography of that ward, so link it through to the atlases and the profiles that are coming from NewhamInfo. And the other thing that we're quite excited about and quite keen to pursue is the direct feeds from into Instant Atlas from people like ONS and OCSI. So again, the timeliness of the information can be much more improved. Obviously, there's still a bit of a burden on us to bring in the profiles, bring in the XML files, and run it through the system and upload it to the site. So we can pursue this direct feeds into the information. Again, that will free up our time even more to kind of push forward some of our future developments and plans. And that's about it from me. So, any questions?